Okay, this is an absolutely beautiful question asked by what I believe is a very heroic woman. She writes as follows: You stress that success in chinuch, success in educating your kids, has a lot to do with shalom bait, with the quality of the marital relationship. The quality of the marital relationship I've written about and I've spoken about has an enormous influence on the character of the children. And she writes that according to the theory that I've been espousing for many years, shalom bait is one element. There's other things that parents can also do. She writes, along with the three-pronged approach, there's planting, there's building, there's prayer. Revolba, of blessed memory, wrote a book about that called Zrio Binyan, Planting and Building. I wrote a book also that deals with this three-pronged approach in detail called To Kindle a Soul. But Shalom Bait is one element, and there are other elements in making sure that our kids come out terrific, right? Like the three-pronged approach of planting, building, and she continues. I left an extremely abusive marriage 2 years ago, thank God. And I now struggle to give my 5 kids a positive example and teach them by example how to act and speak respectfully and live a Torah life. Now in a much safer environment, thank God. While their dad, ... Let's just say I don't have a partner and never had one in educating the kids. And he is basically undermining many things I try to plant and build by planting and building negative traits, habits, and attitude. So she concludes and she says, since divorce unfortunately is rampant today, I'm wondering if you have anything to say about approaching educating our kids in divorce. She puts in parens, in addition, obviously, to prayer, which you can do. But what else can you do in this sort of situation where the shalom bait, the marital relationship, has been severely compromised? If it's such a major influence, so then she doesn't say this, but the implication is, are my kids sunk? Is it hopeless at that point? So first I just want to say that it must be one of the most difficult things a person would ever have to do to walk out of a marriage, especially someone with 5 kids. And being the woman, the vast majority of women who are divorced end up in financial ruin. There's exceptions, but generally the woman suffers terribly, far worse than the men. The women suffer terribly financially in divorce. So this woman was very heroic, and she saw that it was a dangerous environment. Her husband was not cooperative. He was not willing to go for counseling. He was not willing to work on the marriage. And she heroically stood up and walked away. And now she's worried because since the marriage is such a major impact on the kids, what's going to be? They're now coming from a divorced home. So first I want to say it sounds like you're genuinely doing a good job. And there's no apologetics here. A problem with the marriage, a problem in Shalom Bayis has a huge impact on the kid's character. But you can't always control your Shalom Bayis. You can't always control the quality of your marriage. If you can, you should, but if you can't, I mean, sometimes things happen outside of your control. And this is when we remind ourselves that Hashem is really in control of everything. God runs the world, and he can protect our children even when we can't. That's comforting, and that's true. So what that means is all we really need to do is our best from our side. We have to do the best that we can to preserve shalom. We have to do the best that we can to keep the fight under wraps, and Hashem will do the rest. Now that doesn't mean that you'll be able to prevent the fight, because it's not all under your control. But if you're doing everything that you can to prevent the fight, so that's enough. Okay, now, that's very theoretical. I don't like theoretical. Let's get concrete and practical. Practically, in a really difficult situation like yours, you may not be able to avoid conflict. If you want to do things that could hurt your children, you have no choice but to resist, and resist powerfully. But what you can still do is avoid saying negative things about your spouse to the kids. Even when your spouse misbehaves, it's tragically common that once the divorce procedure begins, people take off the gloves and they begin brutally laying into each other. And often people badmouth their spouse to the kids. They think somehow this helps the kids by giving them clarity. But in reality, children suffer when they hear their parents saying nasty things about each other. The kids will tell you, if you listen to them, they will tell you that it causes them pain when one spouse badmouths the other. So, and that pain is real damage that's being done to them. In such situations, we need to do whatever is necessary to protect our children, and simultaneously, I need to hold back from bashing my spouse to my kids. And that's a very concrete and very practical step that I can take to maximize shalom bayis, to keep the fight under wraps, so to speak, even when I can't control my spouse's misbehavior. It's a painful topic to discuss, but it's something which is tragically common today.
I hope you enjoyed this. You can access many more hours of free, eye-opening content from Rabbi Kelemen at LawrenceKelemen.com, LawrenceKelemen.com.